Hello slingshot friends, this is Charles. Several of you have asked me about gypsy tabs from time to time, and so I thought I would show you how it is I go about doing them. I've in the past shown you attaching them with Chicago screws, and that arrangement is kind of may not always be convenient for everybody. You can use Chicago screws, or you can use just plain old, just some standard little screws with acorn nuts. The acorn nuts are just to protect the bands, and so you can see they're attached firmly to this little Altorus metal frame, and they're easy to change the bands just by undoing the screws. But a lot of you, of course, don't want to drill holes in the fork tips, and fair enough, so let's just see what else we can do. This is a nice natural which was sent to me by Stedge on the forum, and I've put some tubes on here, changed the tubes that were originally on here, and it's done with just gypsy tabs, and all I did was to form a loop and then put the band through the loop of the leather and then tie it on with some standard rubber bands. Just absolutely nothing to it. And you don't have to groove the forks or anything. If you're going to tie these on with thread, which I don't recommend, then you would certainly have to groove the forks to keep everything from slipping. Here's a little mutant ninja that was made by BC Slinger for me, and again I put gypsy tabs on it, just a loop of leather, and then tied on with rubber bands. These are tied on in exactly the same way that you would tie the flat bands. Alright, now I can't imagine that you really need it, but I'll just sort of show you the process. So here I have some half-doubled 1745s, and I'm going to put them onto this little bow shooter. So I just cut a couple of lengths of fairly soft leather. You don't want to use hard leather because it will just abrade the bands. And there are really basically two ways to put the gypsy tabs on. You can put the tab on each side of the fork. Of course, you would have the loop of the tubes through there, and then you would tie it in place. But if you do that, hope you can see, when you draw back everything's fine, but as you go forward those tubes are going to be constantly contacting the top of the fork tip, and quite frankly I don't like that because it does lead to faster abrasion of the tubes. So I like to put the tab on the off side of the fork tip so that when you draw, the tab is drawn back over the fork tip. And so as it goes forward, there's nothing that the tube is banging against other than the soft leather, so it helps protect the tube from any abrasion on the fork tip. Alright? So it's just very simple. I use sometimes number 64 rubber bands, and here's some that I've already used once and they're cut, so I'll probably just use those. And I just use a little piece of, I use some nylon string, and I do a tuck and tie technique. So I'm going to lay out my bands the way I want them. I want that protrusion to be on the outside of the pouch, and I want that bit of knot there to be on the outside of the band as I draw. So this is the way this one's going to go on. So I put the loop of leather around the tube just like that. And then I position the leather on the back side of my fork tip. And I'm going to let it sit. I'm going to put enough leather down here so that the tube just comes just to the front of the fork tip. So that's about how long I'm going to leave it. These tabs are longer than I need, but I don't see any real reason to cut them off. I must say I find it easier if I slip the rubber band I'm using to tie with underneath the leather. That keeps the leather from shifting around too much as I'm doing the tie. And now you just do a quick wrap, and you put a lot of tension on that rubber band as you wrap. I've got plenty of rubber band here, but again, if I wanted to, I could, after a few wraps, I could just do my tuck and cut the excess off, but I don't see any real reason to do that. I'm getting down to the point where I'll probably only have a couple more wraps, so I'm going to take a little loop of nylon string here, hold it down, come across it once, come across it twice, and that's, maybe I'll come one more. So on the third one, instead of coming across, I'll just slip the end of it through that loop, hold it, and then pull so that that trailing end comes underneath those two wraps. And I leave a little bit of it hanging out, pull my loop out. Now if I want to take this tab loose, all I have to do is to pull that bit of rubber band and it'll come out. So now, there it is. I've got my tube and the tab, and when I pull back it holds just fine. And what I would do is just do the other side in the same way after I get it laid out the way I want it. I want this to be on the outside, so I'm going to bring it around like this. Do it just about like that. Okay. So I take my Gypsy tab, put it across the tube, put it on the fork so that it comes just to the tip. Take my rubber band, and I'm going to start it off by slipping it underneath that Gypsy tab so that everything stays pretty well in place. Now I just start wrapping. And doing it this way means that you can replace tubes in the field fairly quickly if you get a break. You have your band set already made up, and you just replace one band set by another just in case something breaks. This one's going to be just a little bit short maybe. Okay, there it is. So we just put that free end through the little loop of nylon cord, and then use the cord to pull that free end down underneath those two wraps. Okay, and when it's reasonably tight, we just pull it loose. And that's all there is to it, so that when you draw, the tubes are drawn through those Gypsy tabs across the top. Same way they work here. Here those leather tabs are just a little bit longer, or a little bit wider I should say. Here, again, just a little bit wider. So that's really all there is to it. Just quick and easy. Press stop. Okay, I hope that helps some of you. I'll talk to you again some other time.